Mr. Speaker, the reason why I observe that marriage rate is an anti-population, it's a population control measure, because in the earlier disposition of our distinguished sponsor, he gave us projections of the United Nations regarding the increasing population of our country, and therefore bigger population in the coming years. And if that is not anti-population, I don't know what's here, is that the proponents underlying is the idea, the philosophy, the thinking that we should be afraid of the growing population. Because what's wrong with having 90 million Filipinos? What's wrong with having 100 million Filipinos? What if we have 1 billion Filipinos that we have to invade China instead of being afraid of the reverse, China invading us? What's wrong with the population, Mr. Speaker? And that's the reason why this actually is very dangerous, because on the surface, and I'm sure our distinguished sponsor for right now may be sincere in his own interpretation, but underlying is that philosophy that we cannot notice in the reasons that from time to time come out, inciting reasons like a growing, a runaway population growth, when in fact, in itself, there is nothing wrong with a big population. In fact, the world is created for man, and the more people, the better the situation should be, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the consensus among the sponsors of the RHD is a consensus around the primacy of reproductive health. And as I said earlier, when we were discussing it, the reduction or the decline in the population growth rate is incidental to the promotion of RH, of reproductive health. So, when we talk about the decline in the population size, we're really talking about something that's incidental, something that is a byproduct of the practice of reproductive health. At the same time, I think that there are concerns that I think we must pay attention to, that have been articulated by demographers, by economists, by sociologists, around the need to have good balance between the population and the environment, around the fact that we must have a good balance between the population and our desires to reduce poverty in the country. And so that whether we like it or not, beyond the RH bill, there are concerns about the relationship of the population to the carrying capacity of the country. So when we're talking about 1 billion Filipinos, or even 500 million Filipinos, and saying that we should not be afraid because then we can invade China, I think, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, that this is quite an irresponsible statement. And we must really realize here, that we must, as responsible citizens, we have to be also concerned about the ability of our economy to be able to support our population. You see, Mr. Speaker, let me just give you our example of our neighboring countries. Whether it might be a cost, I don't know what I said that was irresponsible. When you said that we should not worry about having 1 billion Filipinos because then we can invade China, then I think that this is the kind of it might be a bit exaggerated, Mr. Speaker, but you just see. Okay, but let me just say, Mr. Speaker, that when you look at the experience of our neighbors, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, they had very, very good reproductive health programs. And one of the consequences was that it was brought about a lowering of their population which created a really good balance between population and the economy and population and the environment. And let me just say that Vietnam, Indonesia, and Thailand have very flourishing economies at this point in time. And a central reason for this is the fact that they were able to have good reproductive health programs. So I think that we must be also concerned about the relationship of population to the economy and population to the environment. Having said that, I think we come back to the consensus among measures of proponents of the Garnet's bill that the principal objective is to promote reproductive health. Uniform consensus, not proponents.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But speaking of consensus, I understand that a few sessions ago, in defending the NRC, one of our sponsors admitted that the NRC is a population control bill and a reproductive health bill. So there appears to be no consensus at all. And for all the good intentions or interpretations of our distinguished sponsors on the floor, it is clear that the other sponsors have different ideas. In fact, again, the fears of this representation may be justified even from the language of the United States.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, if I may just ask the distinguished interpreter, who was the sponsor that mentioned it was a population control measure? Because I've been hearing all the sessions and I have not heard this formulation. What I heard from the various defenders, whether it was Margarin or Congressman Latman or Congresswoman Ofonto or Congresswoman Aglibay, or Congressman Marcoleta, was that the principal objective was really to promote reproductive health and responsible parenthood. And the effect on population was incidental. So that's why I would like to ask you who exactly it was, because I don't think it's fair to say that without identifying the person, because it's important to be able to clarify what exactly that person said.
I could be wrong, therefore I will not mention the defender anymore. It's not so material anyway. But what I wanted to point out was if RSV were in fact the population of Philippines, as is this presentation, and I'm sure many of our colleagues will see that it's not the intended object. One of the inevitable consequences of the RSV would be limit population growth. Inevitable. And to allow the state, the government, to set population targets or to make policy out of the number of people who can exist, who can be born into this country. It's a very dangerous path that we will be treading because it has totalitarian implications. We will end up like some countries that are criticized in the family religions or having a one-child policy that will force people who live in their children only one and use violence against families that cannot afford the country. We do not want our state, we do not want a government that has such a power over the individual human being, the citizen, and more important, over the family. These issues of family children, the family is not, should be beyond the competence, beyond the authority, beyond the power of government to control and even to merely dictate what, and even to merely propagandize, which is already happening. And we fear that that power of the state to indoctrinate people that they should have less children than they would otherwise want, because possible for them, because people will support their parents or home. Because if we are poor, but we have 10 children, perhaps one will become a global boxing champion and raise everybody else up from our poverty. This is how Filipinos should be thinking. Our future, our security, our progress depends on our children, because we all grow old, we all grow weak, and what we are now can be better. We have more children to do the conducive.
Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, I think that all the sponsors of the RH bill would share your criticism and your condemnation of a country that uses forcible methods of population control. That we share the condemnation of a country or a government that would, for instance, have a forcible one-child policy. I think there is no doubt about the fact that we share. But what we're trying to say here is that by promoting reproductive health, by giving people real choice in terms of not only promoting their health, but also to be able to decide how many children they would have, okay? And how to space those children, which is really an exercise of free choice, by giving them the methods and have access to that, and not just have the rich, this real, this
parliamentary inquiry. What is the parliamentary inquiry? I know the interpretation of the gentleman from Palawan was subjected to the 1 hour rule.
Yes, gentleman from this side.
May know, Mr. Speaker, if the interpellation is subject to the 1 hour rule.
Well, generally we allow the interpellations to run, subject of course to time extensions. If there are any motions from the majority leader or from other members of Congress.
In that case, Mr. Speaker, because I'm also enjoying the debate, and I don't want that the exchange of words would be stopped abruptly. So may I move that the time of the gentleman from Palawan be extended to 10 minutes.
In objections, here stand. The time of the gentleman from Palawan is extended by
10 minutes.
Another 10 minutes.
With the Mr. Speaker, parliamentary file. To your left, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Dr.
Do we have that in the rules that debate is limited to 1 hour per?
Per interpolator. Generally, that is the practice of the House.
When did we start that practice, Mr. Speaker?
Well, generally, if you compare the House to the Senate, in the House we are not allowed to filibuster. Because
that's not filibustering. It's different.
Maybe I should change the term. But we, in our respect for each other, because of our number, we do not really want to belabor our colleagues with too much of our...
We continue the interpellation of the Honorable Socrates to that of the Honorable Bello.
The gentleman will proceed. The Honorable Gentleman of Akbayan, Walden Bello is recognized to sponsor the measure. The Honorable Socrates